I was browsing over some sales brochures looking for something to make a video on, and for some reason I wanted to check out some campers specifically from the 70s. Maybe because I went camping a few weeks ago, I really don't know. So I look at some GMs and Fords and eventually I get to Dodge. I'm greeted with the cover page, notice a nice D200 with a topper, and if you look closely you can see Mickey Mouse popping his head out. I don't really know. Anyway, I'm going through it, notice the conversion vans, the heavy duty components, Uncle Rico's van. Well, technically it's not, but it reminded me of it, and eventually I get down to the motorhome section. I'm like, well, this should be interesting, and I get to the next page and I see this. We have 6 motorhomes, and one of them stuck out like a sore thumb. That top right RV was nothing like anything I've seen before. It's truly polarizing, isn't it? And I had to know everything there is about them. So, in this week's video, I'm going to cover the Rectrans Discoverer, and I know this isn't something I traditionally go over, but it was just too interesting to pass up. As always, I'm going to provide just a little bit of context to help understand how this thing came to life. 2 guys by the name Simon Knudsen and Lawrence Shinoda were both at Ford for some time right before they co-founded Rectrans. Knudsen was their former president for a few years, and Shinoda was a well-known designer. His more popular work was with the C2 and C3 Corvette, 69 Boss 302, and Ford Torino King Cobra. They both left Ford and had the goal to build a state-of-the-art RV, so they created Rectrans, a blend of recreational and transportation, and opened a factory in Brighton, Michigan in 1970. To build that state-of-the-art RV, they wanted to weigh no more than 10,000 pounds, be luxurious and affordable, get great fuel economy, at least 10 miles per gallon, and oddly enough, be fast. Definitely a hard task to do, but this was the same designer behind some very well-received models, so there was a chance. When coming up with the design, he used a 125 scale model and connected it to a wind tunnel for testing, which was kind of unheard of to be done to a motorhome. Actually, it was the very first. Let's go ahead and look at some of the other motorhomes from around this time to help paint the picture. Winnebago was a popular example with its iconic shape. Superior Motorhome was another, Revcon Motorhome, Champion, and there's a bunch more. The thing is, those other RVs were in the single digits when it came to fuel economy, 5 to 7 miles per gallon. The goal was to hit that double-digit marker. In order to do that, it needed to be aerodynamic. Those other examples were boxy and square, which was completely normal. Wind tunnel testing an RV, as I said, was unheard of. Well, these guys brought the technology and design learned at Ford and also GM and brought it to the motorhome segment and created the Discover 25. The strangest motorhome my eyes have ever seen, with its single door located in the middle, that bulbous front end, fiberglass shell, flared fenders, wraparound windshield. It must have looked like it was from the future. A more recent example that I can think of is those Kenworth T600s. Those were absolutely focused on aerodynamics, commonly known as the Anteater, but they got 20% better fuel economy than the competition. So it's obvious that Shinoda took function over looks, but it worked because it was less than 10,000 pounds fully loaded, it got 10 miles per gallon, and for an RV, it was fast. Under the hood was a Chrysler 413 big block, good for 260 horsepower and 445 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 60 in 11 seconds. Base model cars with mild V8 power, like a Hornet SST with a 304 or a Maverick with a 302, were clocking in at the mid 12-second range. This ridiculous thing was faster. Other Class A motorhomes took anywhere between 18 to 30 seconds to hit 60 because, yeah, it did not matter. I should also point out, these had a spoiler under the nose, had a low ride height, efficient gearing, dual wheels, and hood pins. It was built on the Dodge M300 chassis, a heavily used frame under various Class A motorhomes from the late 60s to late 70s, and had Dana 70 rear axles and leaf springs. Continuing with the outside, the front was based off the B-Series Tradesman vans, the cab side glass was from B-Body Mopars, they had cast-type wheels, and a body stripe in orange, green, or blue. One very interesting feature that I forgot to point out is these had the Thermosan waste disposal system. Basically, it would pump raw through the exhaust system and incinerate it. These had no holding tanks. I believe the GMC motorhomes had this feature too, along with other RVs from the 70s. I think it's about time we step inside this monstrosity and see what it's all about. I want to start off with the cockpit, if you will. One of the sales brochures states, driving the Discover is like piloting a jet, smooth, exciting, and effortless. From what I've read from owners, this is true. They drove nicely and the visibility was good. If you know your Mopars well, you could tell that the dash is all Dodge with that shifter, specifically a 727 Torque Flight 3-speed automatic. This was one of my favorite photos I came across. It has that nostalgic look to it from the 70s. A lot of the other photos I found don't capture it quite like this one does. It sets the mood for what these were in their prime, a luxurious 25-foot long motorhome that looked like nothing else on the road. Inside, it could sleep 6 people, included a galley, nice-sized bathroom, cooking stove, fridge, fiberglass shower, double sink, polyester carpeting, roof access hatch with interior ladder. The brochure states it was a studio apartment on wheels. A movie called Slither, released back in 1973, showcased these RVs as the villains' vehicles. They were painted in all black, and it's something you'd never expect for villains of a movie to have. One of the scenes in the movie has one of the Discoverers crashing into some water, but this wasn't their first plan to destroy it. One of the engineers for Rectrans said they were going to use dynamite on one of the shells of the Discoverer, but the body was too flexible and it didn't explode. The Rectrans Discoverer was built from 1971 to 1974, and most sources claim that around 3,300 units were built and had an MSRP of around $17,000. Many of which have survived due to its rust-resistant fiberglass shell, and there's a Facebook group dedicated to these motorhomes if you're interested. Rectrans had planned variations for the Discover, the 22 and 27, but it did not work out too well for them. I was able to find a few advertisements for the 22, and from what I've read, maybe only around a dozen were built. They were made from 1972 to 1973, and the goal was to go up against the Winnebagos of their time. They were built on the GM C30 chassis, had a fiberglass nose, and a 454 V8 under the hood. So, what happened? Why did these fail so badly? The simple answer is the gas crisis of the time. Yeah, these were getting great MPGs for a motorhome, but 10 miles per gallon is still very expensive. The Discoverer itself was on the more expensive side. It just didn't stand a chance. That's not to mention that their factory in Michigan was struck by lightning and it burnt down. The Discoverer 25 is credited for shaping the history of the motorhome by being the first RV to be tunnel tested for improved aerodynamics. It also predates the GMC motorhome, which were also very impressive at the time and futuristic looking. I went through just about every post there is about these, and I have to say, to me, these were impressive for what they were, and to have Shinoda as the designer speaks volumes. So there you have it. Now you know a little too much about the Rectrans Discoverer. This out-of-the-world UFO of an RV that was faster than many cars of its time. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. It helps me understand what you guys like to watch and don't like to watch. That is going to wrap it up for this week's video. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will try and see you all next week.